Think back to your first time sitting behind that wheel, way up high looking down on the world. Can't nothing beat that feel. Maybe you're brand new, your daddy taught you. Maybe your mom shifts them gears. No matter what got you on this ride, but damn sure glad you're here. We love this big truck life. Got the windows down, tanks filled up, passing miles trying to make a buck, yeah. We love this big truck life, but it ain't for everyone. It takes a special kind. Nothing like the open road to put your mind at ease. Hammered down in the fast lane, black smoke in the breeze. Oh, you sacrifice for everyone. At times it goes unseen. Regulations killing us. Guess where you can shop that ELD? We love this big truck life. Got the windows down, tanks filled up, passing miles trying to make a buck, yeah. We love this big truck life, but it ain't for everyone. It takes a special kind.
All right. Enough of the intro. I know a lot of people hate long intro music, but whatever. It's a way to try to get people to come in. But, you know, that's what happens when I don't pre-announce that I'm doing a live show. And good thing I didn't, because I was planning on doing a show a while ago. And just like now, something comes up. Watch. And I know she gets to know. Hey, I'm live, dear. Love you too. Bye. Like, how hard is it to check your phone? Anyway, this is going to be a quick episode. I actually recorded several news blurps and stuff like that, but then I forgot about it. And I switched this over to my work laptop. So it's like confusing now, but whatever. It is what it is. One of the big stories I wanted to talk about. Well, first, like I made a video this morning and I didn't publish it, but I was ranting about how some of the rates are super low out of Florida. And I know typically rates are really low, but they're moving full truckload, 43,500 pound truckloads out of Florida for 70 cents a mile. I saw load offers today. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I don't know if I've ever seen rates that low. Now, granted, I ended up booking my driver that was in Florida, short hop that was paying like $1.50, I think. Short hop into Georgia where he's dropping that tomorrow. He could have dropped it today, but he wanted tomorrow. And then he's got a good run, 270 miles. I think it was like $1,200, $1,300, just going up a little bit further. And then on Wednesday, I'll book him a banger where he'll make a little bit more money. And then I've got another driver that's in Florida that didn't want to load out today because he's like, it's all cheap. And I'm like, it's not going to change by tomorrow. And he's like, whatever. And I'm like, but you should have let me book your load coming into it because I probably could have got more money. And he's like, oh, live and learn, right? Right? That's it. That's the advantage I have at dispatching some of the trucks. I've been doing this so long that I don't know. I tend to be pretty decent at negotiation with some of these brokers. So it's good. It's good. But the rates are bad. They're getting better in some markets, but they're bad in others. Like last week, Georgia to Dallas was doing really good. Now that lane's not that great. Dallas to Georgia is not that great either. You're going to be lucky if you're pulling $2 a mile. Now, keep in mind, ATRI, the American Trucking Research Initiative, which is the research arm of ATRI, or is the research arm of the American Trucking Association, says that the national cost to operate, and granted, most of their clientele are big, mega carriers, 50 truck or more fleets, but which I guess that means we'd be a mega carrier in that definition. Anyway, they say the national cost to operate is $2.34 a mile. So if the national average is $2 a mile, then that means that you're pulling loads for $2 a mile. You're essentially losing money on every single load. You know, it's just crazy. But yeah, there's still markets. Like you could still make money in this market. You're not going to make as much as when rates are super high, but you could still make money. That's why partnering with a great company like TRC, or or doing it yourself and just knowing what you're doing, you could do pretty well. You could do pretty well. Nick said most of the time you're better off dead heading out of Florida. The rates aren't worth the time and aggravation. Yeah, I would agree. But for example, the load that I booked from my driver, he delivered this morning in the southwestern Florida. He delivered pretty quick. His pickup was 20 minutes away. He was loaded and it was 20 minutes north, and he was loaded in 20 minutes. Like it was 2 pieces. So he backed up to their dock, boom, they threw it on, and he was out rolling. He didn't even notice. They give me a notice because that's how quick he was. So it's interesting. Someone said work is too low for now. No loads, please assist. Well, I can help you if you want to lease on with a great carrier. And that's the thing too. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. We may launch like a dispatching / logistics solutions back office solution for small independent carriers. Or I don't know. I mean, I'm weighing all options in order to help some of these guys, because in our reality, this market, you can be successful if you spend all day on the stock, or all day on the boards. You're not going to be super successful if you're just, only able to stop and look at the boards for a second while you're driving, or when you pull off the road or something like that. No, you got to be staring at the board, because you may see one load that's paying $1.70 and you may just be like, oh, screw it, I'll take it. And then 20 minutes later, a load paying $1.90 or $2.50 or $3, comes up. And that's the case with the load that was paying like $3.20 that I booked for the driver today, or that was paying like $3.20 per mile. Is I just waited. I didn't book the first one that popped up. We had time. I knew he had until tomorrow to make the delivery. And it just so happens I saw a load come up. I called the broker. They offered they didn't have a posted rate, but I called the broker. They offered what they offered. And so I said, yeah, I'll take that load. And I didn't want to sound too like, yeah, I'll take it. Give it to me now. Nah, I was just like, you know what? I'll take that load. But yeah, someone else said, are we eventually opening a freight brokerage for the company you work for? Yep. But it's going to be different, because the main focus of the logistics solution side is to help carriers. So the main goal is to get freight for our company trucks, obviously, because that's what I want to do. And so I'm heavily focused on that. But in order to go out and get big shippers, say they give me 20 loads out of Chattanooga, but I only have 10 trucks there that day. Obviously, I need to be able to cover all the loads. So I need to have the brokerage authority to be able to move those loads. So that's what we're doing. Nick said, I do local home deliveries with the sleeper Coronado right now. Best move I made was coming off the long hauls. Only thing that stinks is I have a really nice 53-foot van that hasn't moved in a year. Yeah, that's true. Someone said, if I missed it, I apologize. Did you find out about having to log on if you're babysitting an autonomous truck? I did not. That's a good question. I should have asked people at FreightWaves, because I'm sure someone would know. And you know what? I'll post that on Twitter, on FreightX, because that's an interesting question. My guess is that you do need to keep logs if you're in one of those semi-autonomous, because you still are in the driver's seat. You still have to be awake and attentive. You can't fall asleep. So I don't know. That's a good one. But yeah, our brokerage authority should go live in the next couple of days, which is nice. And then we'll be able to start going after some more direct shippers and feel comfortable about being able to move that freight. But again, the goal is to move that freight on our company trucks. And then for independent owner ops that are looking for a break, you know what I mean? Because I'm going to treat it with the same mentality that I've always treated freight, which is, volume, baby. I want to move volume. I don't really care as much or what I'm selling it for, as long as I'm moving a lot of it. You know what I mean? I've always been that way when it comes to moving freight. I don't care about big margins. I care about, one, making sure a driver is going to come back and work for us. And so if I pay more, if I pay a higher margin to them, it works. But I also have to keep my rates lower than the other brokers and carriers that I'm competing with. So it's like a catch-22. It's fun. It's fun. I love this industry. It really does. It makes me happy just talking about it and working in it and troubleshooting. And I'm pretty good at stuff. I mean, we just had a little crisis, and crisis averted, because I called them and I was like, hey, listen, you offered this, but it doesn't work for us. So give us this. And they're like, okay, that's how this whole thing works, But I've noticed too a lot recently that a lot of brokers seem to be really screwing up, very basic, fundamentals of their job, like weights and stuff like that. And maybe, you know, because here's the thing, when you sign a rate confirmation, it says your weight is, say, 20,000 pounds, and the driver goes in and gets loaded and it's 40,000 pounds. If the driver refuses to take that because it's over his weight limit that he wants to carry, you have a contract, a legally binding contract, and that the weight, you either, one, have to pay what the driver wants in order to haul that load, or two, you got to pay to take it off and order a tonneau. But at some point, if you've been sitting there for 3 or 4 hours waiting to get loaded, you're loaded for 20,000 pounds more than what you wanted to haul. Is it worth just taking it off for $150, or do you eat the loss and say, I'll take a couple $100 more? And even if it's not really what you wanted a lot more. But I don't know. It's interesting. People have to just pay attention to those Raycons. They're legally binding contracts for both sides. So everybody has to remember that. Sandy said it's freezing up. Yeah, I've had issues with the internet all day, and I don't know if it's just because I'm running too many big windows on this laptop. I don't know. What I may do tomorrow is set it up with the other computer. So I'm just running the feed off of this one, and then it goes into the other computer to live stream, because I don't know. It's been buggy all day. I can't even watch YouTube videos. And most of you guys know when I'm working, I like to listen to podcasts and things like that. So it's been interesting. There's another news story that came out of FreightWaves. I don't have it open right now. Actually, there it is. It's a bipartisan bill introduced to guarantee truck drivers overtime pay. Now, this is likely going to die in the Senate, but it's die in the Senate or the House if they even pass it, because the ATA is pretty big and they're pretty strong. So, probably nothing's going to happen with this. But bipartisan lawmakers have introduced a bill that would give America's 2.19 trillion truck drivers the right to overtime pay. Now, this is a 1938 law that guaranteed most American workers minimum wage and time and a half pay if they work more than 40 hours in 1 week. However, that law excluded truck drivers. The bill, introduced Thursday in both the House and the Senate, would nix the clause in the 1938 law that exempts motor carriers from providing overtime pay. In a larger study of the American freight industry, the Biden administration urged Congress to enshrine drivers with overtime pay, according to a study published in February of 2022. A Democrat lawmaker introduced a bill the same year in April, but that legislation did not move forward because, again, politicians in D.C. can't work together. Even if they co-sponsor a bill, they still can't work together because they're idiots. All of them, across all party lines. I could say that, because that's not showing a bias one way or the other. It's just a neutral distaste for whoever is in Washington because they don't have your best interests in mind. Is that okay? Like, I know the owners watch this. Is that too far, or is that okay? Because I'm like, that's about as neutral as you can get, where they all suck. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. That was pretty good. Anyway, the most recent effort, 2 Democrat senators and a bipartisan team of 2 House representatives are pushing for the bill. It still faces a long road ahead, which includes committee reviews that won't actually talk about the issue. They'll just grandstand and blame everything on Donald Trump. See, I'm getting carried away there, but whatever. Control of Congress is currently split, with Republicans holding the House majority and Democrats holding the Senate, as you may or may not know. Now, a lot of people have been lobbying for truck drivers to get overtime pay. I don't know how you could possibly get that to work, because the whole pay system for truck drivers would have to be completely revamped. And it also wouldn't include owner operators. I saw a lot of owner operators who were really thrilled about this. Like, it's going to benefit them at all. It's not going to benefit you guys. It would benefit company drivers, who would then have to be guaranteed a certain set wage for the hours that they work. But is that going to actually drive rates lower? Is it going to be harder to carry on to keep drivers? Even as hard, we have a retention issue now. I know they keep talking about a shortage, but we have a retention issue in trucking. We don't. Trust me, as we do recruiting on our trucking side. There's a shit ton of drivers that are looking for freight, that are looking for business, that are looking for new homes, that are looking for driving jobs. Not even owner ops, just people looking for driving jobs. There's a ton of them out there. So I don't know why they keep saying we have a driver shortage, but actually I know why, because the mega trucking companies, they want the cheap drivers. You can't get a driver that's been driving for 10 years to drive for what a new driver would cost, which is like 40 cents a mile. You can't get that. The experienced drivers are going to want like 50, 60 per mile. So it's interesting. Someone said truck drivers should get more money. I agree on things like detention, things like layover, things like truck order not used. I think that those rates should go up dramatically. And obviously market rates should go up as well, but market rates are determined by supply and demand. If carriers are out there taking this cheap shit, guess what? The cheap shit is going to continue to flow. You know what I mean? And that's, in all reality, that's what's going to happen until the freight dries up, until the carrier, there's a purge of all this excess capacity in the supply chain field or in the logistics market. The low rates are going to continue. And I don't know how you do that, because what they're saying now is, there's all this hubbub about all these freight brokers that are going to go under and blah, 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 blah. I don't necessarily believe any of that stuff anymore. I think people are just losing their minds in the industry and looking for any sort of justification for why rates are low. I mean, you see these trade groups and I don't even want to call them trade groups. That's like patting them on the back for being morons. The NOOA, they're not a trade group. They're a big pyramid scheme. You pay a membership, and then that membership entitles you to pay for every other service that they offer. How does that make any sense? And what surprises me the most is that the people from the NOOA, the National Owner Operator Association, they continuously are on social media talking about how freight brokers are greedy and taking too much profit. But whenever you ask them specifically and say, oh, well, what distinguishes, what is different between you and a freight broker? If you're saying a freight broker doesn't deserve a percentage of the load because they booked it, what do you deserve? Because you're charging $125 or $150 a quarter for your membership. And then to use any of the services that you have under the umbrella of your for-profit company, then you need to pay for dispatch, pay for collections, pay for this, pay for that. And none of it's free. So it's just, to me, it's really funny. And the worst part about it is they actually could care about stuff. If they wanted to, they could. But I don't know. They don't really care. It's all a money-making scheme. I should have like a Steven Crowder thing and go up to a truck stop or the next trucking show. Maybe that's what I should do. Set up, change my mind, the NOA or all scammers or something like that. I don't know. It's just stupid. Someone said pay for tickets too. Yeah, I don't know what you mean with the pay for tickets. But for NOA, I don't think they pay for tickets. Maybe they do. Maybe they have some legal team now where you could pay to have your tickets removed. Like, you got to pay for everything. What the hell are you getting for the $150 a quarter? But I hate the fact that they go out there and pretend to represent trucking, and they talk all these valid talking points, but behind the curtain, they're doing the same thing, if not worse, than what the greedy freight brokers that they always said, which is just sad. It's sad. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, many of you guys that have been following the trucking industry for a very long time probably remember a group called Black Smoke Matters. Black Smoke Matters was around years ago. I think they were around before Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. But they were a group of, I like to call them outlaw truckers, and they were out there protesting ELDs. They're out there protesting hours of service and all these increased safety regulations and everything that are consistently and constantly being imposed on the trucking industry. One of the most abrasive yet powerful voices in that group was a man named Joseph Denny. Joe Denny was a figurehead on social media, still is. Well, I don't know if he's still on social media. But Joe Denny this weekend was in a very, very bad accident. He was driving a truck when a car hit him head on. And I believe the cars exploded. The truck exploded. 2 people were killed. Joe Denny was listed. He was incredibly injured. He's on a breathing machine on social media. Unfortunately, I don't have the link handy right now. But if you go on Facebook and you type Joe Denny, or even on Twitter right now, you'll see a link to his GoFundMe. Tony Justice posted it out. Again, I wasn't a big fan of his brashness, but he did a lot to try to help the industry. So if you do, times are rough right now, but if you do have a couple of bucks, instead of supporting, my channel or anybody else, go find it. Just go Google Joe Denny GoFundMe. It's DENNEY, Joe DENNEY. Find his GoFundMe and throw him a couple of bucks. He has a long recovery. He's currently on a breathing machine. He had smoke and fire damage to his lungs. He's definitely injured. And he's someone that's been around the trucking industry as pretty much as long as I have. And even though I disagree with pretty much everything, I don't disagree. I disagree with this method of getting across. Like, for example, they gave an interview, I remember years ago, on social media. And and it was an interview in national television, and they represented trucking so poorly in that video. And I'm not alone in saying that. A lot of people did. But again, Joe Denny is someone that's been around the transportation industry for a long time, a vocal supporter or a vocal activist, really, for the trucking industry in terms of hours of service and ELDs. Like, they hated ELDs. But yeah, if I encourage all of you guys to find his GoFundMe and support him. And anyone that was in the Black Smoke Matter group that remembers me, you're probably like, holy crap, I can't believe Steve just did that. We don't have a lot of people like him, and so hopefully he's good. And hopefully someone said he came off a ventilator this evening, long road to recovery, but he's still doing well. Yeah. And I wish I had the link. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because I don't put links in my chat, but I will, because I think it's important. Let me try to find it real quick. Right here, I'll put it. I found it, and this is the official one that's been shared by everybody. But that link is in the chat. So if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, even, you can support him. Again, he's just is someone that's been big in the trucking industry. Not a big fan of his method of doing it. They do the slow rolls and all that stuff. I don't like slow rolls. I've never liked slow rolls. I think it's stupid. You're clogging up traffic. But you know what? It's this is where the trucking industry can come together. Someone said Black Smoke Matters. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the group, but I was a big fan of what they were trying to do. Okay, and that's why I decided to put it out there. And if you choose to donate, you choose to donate. If you don't, you don't. It's kind of your prerogative. I know I don't do that much. Actually, ever. I don't think I promote individual GoFundMes. I do it for like law enforcement and stuff like that. But I saw this one, and if I was in a different place, I probably would do it. But things are for everyone. Someone said, what's the stream about? And let's go, Brandon. The stream is about freight. I don't really talk too much about politics anymore, unless I get the quick little jabs like I did earlier today. But I don't really talk about politics that much anymore. Just talk about the freight industry. Like someone said earlier, I go back to my roots, because freight is more, to be honest, it's more exciting than than the political world right now. So yeah, I tend not to talk about it too much. But yeah, I used to do a political show, and it was huge. My political show was huge. I lost all my viewers when I quit. But again, it was like a mental health thing, because I either was going to continue talking about it and just feeling awful about this country and what it's becoming, or I could talk about the trucking industry and try to convert some people that don't necessarily have involvement in the industry to have an involvement in it. So that's what we're doing. And that's what I'm doing. What else was I going to talk about? There was one other thing, and I don't remember. Many of you guys know I was in Chattanooga last week for the FreightWaves F3 event. It's pretty good. It was pretty good. Many of you guys that have met me in real life, in public, like this, the outgoing personality that I have on camera is not actually my real personality. I'm more reserved, extremely judgmental, kind of look angry most of the time. And when I say extremely judgmental, if I just get a bad vibe from you before I even talk to you, I can't hide my distaste for your every being. And I don't know why that is. It's something I've always had. It's not a good quality. But a lot of other people started to realize that, like even, my bosses, they're like, you're not as like outgoing as you are on social media. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not, I'm judgmental. I know it. That's the big thing. I pass judgment on people before I even meet them. I see them and I just pass judgment. But the FreightWaves event was cool. We met with a lot of the vendors that we're currently working with as our company is growing or establishing new relationships with, which is pretty awesome. We saw one day of tech demos, but I missed the majority of them. And that's my favorite part to go. But it was more about networking. It was more about just, handing out business cards, shaking hands, meeting people that are in the industry. I'm really happy to see that, in the 2 years, well, I guess it's been 3 or 4 years since I went to a FreightWaves event. The crowd is getting younger. You know what I mean? And the Journal of Commerce has big issues with the fact that a lot of people that are involved in the freight industry are younger. because they don't like memes and stuff like that. And I think memes are funny. And apparently so does the editor and founder of FreightWaves, because he's offered anybody that does a year's worth of memes gets free entry into his convention next year, which is quite I mean, it's like getting paid $2,500 to do memes. Oh, and then he said he's going to give a creator award out to the best freight creator of the year, worth $100,000 next year, which is pretty crazy. So the industry is interesting. There were a lot of young people at the FreightWaves event, which I thought was interesting, or it was cool, to be honest, because I still, flash back to when I was 23 or 24 years old, and I was a sales director for a big 3PL. And I remember being the only person at that, like when we would have the big executive meetings, I was the only person at that meeting under the age of 30, let alone 40. I was probably the only person under the age of 40. And every single thing that I proposed, every single thing that I suggested always was met with like anger by these old people. But you know what? It's cool. And I ended up making good relationships with a lot of people there, and some of which I still talk to today, which is neat. It's neat. Don't care who you are. It's neat. Sorry, my emails are going. Someone said, if riots start again, will you go live? No, not a chance in hell. There were riots today. There were riots last week. No, riots, you'll have to watch somewhere else if you want the riots. I don't care about riots anymore. What? And here's the thing. For 2 years, I covered the decay of this country. I want to cover what is going back and the rise of this country. When we finally do get our crap together and the country starts performing the way it will. But yeah, I don't know. Someone said, did you hear what was said on the stage about the lack of enforcement of any regulations? No, but I mean, I can attest to it. And I don't know why. I don't know why they don't enforce as much, because myself, I've caught, and I've only been back in the freight game for a couple of weeks now. Well, like 3 months, something like that. But I've already caught 2 instances, or what I believe are 2 instances of load board fraud. One of them clearly was they were spoofing someone else's MC, but I know the people. I know actually the vice president of sales for that big broker. So I emailed him and said, hey, someone's, pretending to be you. And by the time he actually got around to looking at, they had already like changed it, spoofed someone else's MC number and all that stuff. And then we had one the other day where the broker refused to confirm the load. Because typically what I do, and I don't do it for all loads, but I made a video on this the other day, is when I'm booking a load and I don't recognize the broker, or the brokerage, I'll confirm the load. I'll call them back and say, hey, we just booked the load with you. I want to confirm the load number. I want to confirm the addresses and the rate, right? To protect our interests as a trucking company. Well, some brokers apparently really, really hate that. So when I called this one broker to try to talk to anybody, there was nobody there. Nobody answered the phone. In fact, many of the extensions went to disconnected Verizon cell phones. So I called the broker back and I'm like, hey, listen, man, I need a number to verify. And he's like, you're wasting my time. What are you going to call the shipper next? And I'm like, actually, I will now. After I didn't say this, but I should have. I said, yeah, I'm going to now. I'm going to back solicit your customer. But I didn't say that because that would be rude. And we don't back solicit people. But it is what it is. Was Carrier Sure there at F3? Not that I saw. Granted, I didn't really look, but I did talk about Carrier Sure because I don't. The more I think about what Carrier Sure is doing, and let me explain what Carrier Sure does. Carrier Sure is a company that monitors carrier fitness. Essentially, let's just say that. So basically, they're supposedly, or what they're supposed to do is gauge whether or not, using a whole pile of metrics and data, whether or not a carrier is legit, right? Or whether you have to worry about working with said carrier. But the truth of the matter is Carrier Sure rates new carriers with an F. And what a lot of people are alleging is that when you go to challenge that F rating because you're a new carrier, you're told that the reason you have an F rating is because you're new and you don't have any inspections. But they can audit you as long as you become a member, which I'm like, that's not right. That's not right at all. Now, I have, in full transparency, myself tried to reach out to Carrier Sure several times to find out if those are just rumors, if they're true or not. They declined to answer me any of the times. So it's weird, right? Because you have to pay. It's like a pay to play scheme, allegedly, but, and I don't know, hopefully it's not that way. I would love to have Cassandra the CEO of that company come on and explain if I'm wrong. But based on so many different reports online, it looks like it could be leaning to some sort of variation of that. And I hope not. I really hope not. Because I think that we do need those carrier safety barriers in place to assure that freight brokers and shippers and carriers themselves are not getting ripped off. But I don't know. I don't know. Now you're going to hear a dog running around like crazy because my wife and kids just got home, which means that I'm just going to end this live stream. So it was a pleasure seeing all of you guys today. Very short show today, but they're home. There was no wrestling match for my son because he got slammed last week in his chest. Maybe we thought he cracked ribs, to be honest, but so he didn't get to wrestle today because his chest was hurting. And I said, someone said, what the F, 3 people? Yeah, it depends what. So you're watching on the Rational American. We're also on all the other YouTube channels, the Steve Oatley YouTube channel, plus Facebook and all that. But yeah, when I just talk about freight, our views are way down. I could make a show right now where I could talk about politics and I would have hundreds and hundreds of people. But for right now, we're just talking about politics on this channel freight on this channel. And then if you're watching on the Rational American YouTube channel or the Rational American Facebook channel, stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right, guys, I will see all of you on Wednesday for the next episode of Freight Broker Live.